Right. Welcome, everyone.
Hello.
Hi.
We're going to give it just a few moments as we gather our attendees into the webinar.
Kelly always with her beautiful lipstick.
Me, you're always so kind about my lipstick.
Hi, Carrie. The waiting game. Dun, dun, dun.
Yes, yes. We'll give it like 2 minutes.
Okay. Krista, would it help if I think I can make you a co-host.
Um,
Do you want that power?
no,
Okay.
because I wouldn't know what to do with it. It might be scary. No.
I'm all full of singing today.
Ooh, what's the song?
I don't know, just like random rhythm in my head, which is
No.
so not like me because I'm not a creative brain on that side of things. I don't know how to play the piano. I don't know how to play any instruments.
Well, you know, the microphone.
That's true. Although I'm not so sure I can keep a tune.
Oh. I guess we're gonna have to table that karaoke for a bit.
Hey, Stacy.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. Oh, Jen, hey.
Hello, hello. It's always fun to see familiar faces.
So many of my karaoke friends.
We are holding you to it, sister. So get ready.
All right, how many do we have here?
Looks like there's more in the waiting room. Oh, just one. Happy Tuesday, everyone. Happy Tuesday.
Right back at you, Amy.
I keep forgetting what day of the week it is, honestly.
I was just gonna say, wow, you know, most of us have forgotten. Oh,
I have to say it out loud every morning. Happy Tuesday, baby. I'll say to my husband, or happy Wednesday to like remember what day it is.
God,
Yeah.
your lipstick is fabulous. Oh my goodness. I wish I had lips to put lipstick on.
I need Kelly to do a tutorial, a lunch and learn about putting on fabulous lipstick.
Do that, and then we can have a lipstick reader. Has anyone ever done that before, when you kiss a piece of paper and then they tell you what your lips say?
Yes,
Oh,
that's
cool.
a thing.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's a thing.
Huh.
Tell me more.
That's about all I know.
I don't know, Krista. I feel like that's our next lunch and learn.
I love it. We can kick off the new year with that, or it could be February's. Ooh, for Valentine's.
Oh, that's a good idea. I like that.
Yeah. All right, well, let's just in essence of time, and we know that Amy has a lot of wonderful things to share with us, so I think we should get started and then just have Laurel pop people in as they show up in the waiting room. Are we good?
Sounds good.
Wonderful. All right, well, we want to welcome everyone to our second Connecting Conversations Lunch and Learn series. Last month, we had Maggie Harris, one of Amy's colleagues, that spoke on leveraging your strengths, and she shared some great tips on how to leverage your personal and professional strengths to increase your success in the world. So that webinar was recorded. We did send that out on a YouTube link to all of you. And we'll be doing the same with Amy's for any people that we'd like to share that with. So just be on the lookout for that following our webinar. And so our presenter today, if you haven't already guessed, Amy Hunter, one of our very own Women United members. And she also helped us launch and organize this series. So we thank you for your resources, Amy, and your guidance on this.
You are very,
So
very
I've had the great fortune to get to know her over the past year. I've discovered we have a few things in common, working on being the best version of ourselves. Along with the things I just can't forget is our love of sticky notes, wine, and very spicy things.
Yay.
I love it. So she often refers herself to, I do people, I don't do numbers. And I've learned so much from her expertise in navigating people and situations. And with her wealth of knowledge and sharing with us today, we are going to be diving in to personal branding. I do also want to do a quick note before we jump into today's topic. And if you are familiar with Simon Sinek's Why, which some of us, I believe in several months ago in the Women United group, we dove into the topic of Simon Sinek's Why. Well, Amy is a huge proponent of Simon Sinek. And if you'd like to discover your why and really understand the how and what behind your why, I would encourage you to get in touch with Amy following this, because that's another area of her expertise. So let's get into this month's topic. Amy, take it away with personal branding.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Krista, and thank you everyone for joining us here today. I will start by telling you, I am not a traditional gal. And so for those of you that do know me well, know that things are not always as they appear. So Krista, as Krista explained, I do often describe myself from a perspective of I do people, not math or numbers for a living. And so this lens of who are we from a personal brand perspective takes on that same light. And so this is not going to be about traditional marketing, because that ain't my shtick, kind of perspective of branding. This is about who we are and how we show up. And Krista laid the foundation really well by mentioning Simon Sinek's Why, because I think that's also a big part of who we are and how we show up from a personal perspective, and that story and that message that we tell others. So I like to have conversation. I am not about webinar based, where for the next 52 minutes, did I do that math right? 52 minutes, we will be, I'm not people, numbers give me anxiety. So for the next 52 minutes, this is about conversation and connection, just as the Women United committee group has labeled it. So stop me along the way if you've got questions. Krista will be looking at the chat, making sure that I keep on top of those things. This is our time to be spent together, uplifting each other, sharing with each other, and being able to connect over who we are and who we believe we are, and sharing that message. So a little bit more just about me, because I am not your traditional person. This is how I like to do my intro and my bio. So I am a partner at the Simmons Group. Some of you may be very familiar with my business partner, Ann Nicholson. She started the business, gosh, 20 years ago this year. Man, we should have had a birthday. That would have made something fantastic about 2020. So we are 20 years old as the Simmons Group. And in a traditional sense, we are an HR and training consulting company. And I am, I am the type of individual that likes to have fun and likes to be silly. I swear sometimes, I laugh a lot. I lean into my funniness. And I'm also not afraid to have very difficult conversations with clients. And I approach things from a very kind and constructive way. And so those are some of the themes that you'll see throughout our time together this afternoon. And I live those things, not only through my why, as Krista mentioned, but also through the brand that I put out there. I am a runner, although winter is my worst time of year. And my friend Jen, who has joined us today on this call, regularly throughout the week send each other little love notes about how cold our fingers are and how delightful the warm shower was after. Going back to my silly and funniness, I don't mind making light and bringing humor to sometimes difficult situations. And I'm a mentor. That is a picture of my very first mentee in a program here in the Valley with CORE. Her name is Lizbeth. For those of you that have seen, we've been on TV a bit. And she's just amazing and fantastic. She's currently in nursing school coming into her second year of now nursing school. And then from a more business sort of perspective, I am a problem solver and a connector for my clients, for not only my clients, but my network of people. And so I tell you all of that as a sort of starting off place for you to be able to get a little bit of a sense of who I am and how I tell my story and how I connect to the things that I believe I do really well. And that's what we're going to work on a little bit today with each other and for yourself, about what is that story? What is that story that you get to choose and believe in so that other people can see it? Now, from a Simmons Group perspective, right, because we always want to be uplifting each other, not only from a personal perspective, but also from our professional perspectives as well. We have 4 very specific tenets that we operate our business from. And that really is about relationships. And if we focus on the relationships around us, all of the business, everything else will come with that. And so if we put the relationship first, the other things seem to really fall into place. And as a business that's been around for 20 years, it's certainly something that we live by and believe works. We want to make sure that you don't need us anymore. So from a client perspective, we go into every situation with the intention of being able to uplift our clients in building trust for you to be able to do what you do really well and layer on the things that we can help guide you with, new tools, new processes, new ways of thinking. That there's always an option. So we oftentimes will say that no is not in our vocabulary because we're going to figure out a way, whether that's with us, with someone else, a solution you saw right in front of you, or a solution that's been in your peripheral. And then as the Simmons Group, we give back to our community and throughout our network. And so those are the things that we consistently come back to from our branding perspective to make sure we're living that every day. I have been with my husband for 17 years. We moved to the Valley 14 years ago. We have a puppy who is 8 months old. His name is Orion, and he is a little hellion. He's in his teenage years of doggy life. And so that's been an interesting quarantine edition. I love the Golden Knights, and I cannot wait for them to come back. We are avid fans and watch as many games as possible, and our season ticket holders. So that's just a little bit about me. I'm an open book. Ask me anything, whether it's on this topic or not, and we'll see what we can do about it. I want to start by talking about, the premise or intention behind today is really talk about that personal brand. How do I show up for myself and for those that are around me? What do I believe? There's a guy by the name of Tom Peters who wrote an article back in 1997, which I think is very relevant today. And that is around this space of personal branding and branding in general being about your reputation. What is it that people say when you're not around? What is it that you believe? What is it that is, I like to call it your leave behind? People, team members, employees, remember how you made them feel. Always. And for they might not even remember the words that came out of your mouth. They're going to remember the way you made them feel. And I call that my leave behind. What is that reputation that I'm leaving behind? And when I assess or evaluate what my leave behind is, what my personal brand is, I think about it in these 3 quadrants. This beautiful Venn diagram. I always knew when I was in college that someday I'd use Venn diagrams to the nth degree. I just had to make it happen. So you think about it from the perspective of who I think I am. What do I believe about myself? Who do I think I am? The perceptions of others, and what I do and what I say. So what I do and what I say, the perceptions of others, and who I think I am are sort of those 3 tenets. So I'd like for everyone to take just a quick minute and jot down, when you think of the language, personal brand, and you think of these three tenets that bring together that perfect storm of our personal brand, what do you think your personal brand is? So jot that down for yourself. I should have also warned you that I'm a very interactive kind of gal, so I'm going to make you actually do work at lunch. Sorry. There's no right or wrong answer. Nobody's going to be giving you a grade. No good or bad. Doesn't have to be perfect. When you think of your personal brand, what comes to mind? I don't know where that sound is coming from. Good background noise. All right, so sometime, well, we've got one gentleman on the line. Hello, welcome to our Women United group. Hi, thank you for joining us. So as we as women in society, and the things that the journey that we have been on for many decades is, to be modest, and words around being small in the room, or the perception associated with where our place is. And so I find that in the work that I do, so often women struggle with being able to be confident in putting down the words on paper, being able to share what it is that they stand for. And so sometimes the hardest part is just getting it out for the first time, or putting it on paper for the first time. And so I'm going to ask you to get outside your comfort zones on this Tuesday. I'm going to put you into quick breakout rooms. And again, there is zero judgment in this space. I want you to share with the people that I put you in the breakout room. What is it that you jotted down on that piece of paper? What is it that you believe defines you? Now, again, in the essence of time, I'm going to be really strict with my timing. And so I'm just going to give you about 6 minutes, and I'm hoping again that math works out, but I can't guarantee, to make sure that we have got the right number. Yeah, let's do this. All right, so there'll be 2 or 3 people in your breakout room. And again, I just want you to share. No judgment, share what is it that you jotted down. And we're going to continue to use this over the next couple of exercises that we go through today. If anybody has a problem with a breakout room or anything, just raise your hand. Sarah, are you good? Not really there. Hey, Ashley and Lauren, if you can hear me, I just had put the group into breakout sessions. So
I'll just hang tight.
okay. And then I was just going to say, what I asked them to do is just jot down, thinking about the words like personal brand and these 3 caveats that I have up here on the screen around who I think I am, what I do and say, and the perceptions that others have. What do you think is your personal brand right now? Or how would you describe it right now? So just jot down a couple of notes that we'll use in the next couple of activities.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, you got it. Lauren, if you heard that or have any clarifying needs, let me know.
I couldn't get my mic to work, so I had to hop out and I hopped back in. But I was in a breakout room.
Oh, you were?
Yeah, but it wasn't, I think it was number 4.
Okay. Was it with Wendy and Laurel?
Yes.
All right. Group 4.
Thank you.
Yeah, you got it. Ashley, Sarah, they have just about 2 more minutes, so not too long.
Thank you.
Yeah. Welcome back. I have been telling people, Kelly, maybe I've said this on something else you've been on, but how much I actually enjoy, and it might make it awkwardly sadistic when I click the button to be like, come back.
I like that it's got the time, Amy, that it, countdown.
Uh-huh. Yes.
It's like you're the puppet master, Amy, or something, or like you're the wizard that like gets everybody to break out, everybody to come back.
Well, and in the classroom, live in the classroom, you have to be like, okay, stop talking. Okay, pay attention to me. Like, okay, I'm for real. I'm moving on now. And in this scenario, I'm just like, and you're back. Now
So
I'd like
funny.
to talk about this. All right, I think we're close to having all the groups back. I think, unless we've lost a couple people. Okay, so how in the chat, just, or if anybody would like to verbalize, easy, hard, how did that make you feel? Fun, exciting? Best time of quarantine? Fun. Good, Carrie. Oh yeah, it's always fun chatting with friends too, right? Piece of cake. Good. Stacy, you're really good at already telling your story, so that's good. Best time of quarantine. Good. So when we think about and we reflect back, it was short, Kate, I'm sorry. I know I am like the time regulator, like come back, my button says so. It's very mixed emotions for me. So when we think about our brand and who we put out into the universe, as for people to be able to see, there's a guy by the name of John Ron, and I probably don't say his name exactly right because I'm, but it's, oh, no, not John, Amy. Dang it, autocorrect. But he has a really famous quote, right, around the fact that you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And when we think about the pieces and parts of who we are that people can very easily see and make an assessment or an understanding about, and the things that people can't as easily see and they create their own story about who we are all of those things that are under the iceberg. I'm sure that many of you have seen and heard this analogy and or been connected to this at some point or another. The nuance to it from the reflection perspective for me is that we connect, it's important for us to connect to that story that we want people to hear, to truly understand the perception that people have about us. And when we think about those 5 people, 6 people, 10 people, well, now in quarantine days, maybe it's 2 people or 3 people that we spend the most amount of time with, we are a product of those individuals that we spend the most amount of time with. So I want you to think about that. Who do you chat with every day, maybe by way of text or phone? Who do you communicate with every day, personal, professionally? Who are the people that you're talking to, working with, speaking with the most often? Just quickly jot down their names so that you can be reflecting on who those people are. 5 or 6, maybe it's 2 or 3. Who are you spending the most amount of your time with? Jot those people's names down. Once you've got those people's names down, I want you to think about, what do you think, or how do you think they would describe their brand? How do you think that they would describe themselves? What is it that they stand for and mean? Maybe it's that first person on the list, right? Maybe a spouse, a significant other, someone that lives within your home. And how is it that they influence your brand? How is it that they influence who you choose to be every day? So the first person on my list is, of course, my husband, Tim. A couple of you know him. A couple of you have seen him at parties and maybe waved from a distance. He looks good in a suit, doesn't he? So when I think about Tim and I think about all the things that he has given to me from his space of belief to the person I am today, I'm really grateful for a lot of those things. There are some of those things also that I'm like, maybe we should have a conversation about that, because there is an influence associated with the fact that I spend the most amount of time with you. If you would have met Firecracker Amy in college when I met my husband, you would be looking at that Firecracker Amy to the Amy today and be like, wow, you are so much calmer. There is so much more to your energy in a positive, good way. He has helped me with that, right? I think about the second person on my list is a friend of mine named Lindsay. We talk every day, chatting back and forth by text messages, talking nearly every day. And I think about her brand, and I think about the things that I really value in her brand, and her confidence and her ability to be able to stand for something that is important, but maybe not something that everyone likes. reflect on those people, reflect on the individuals that you allow to be in that inner circle for you, to be influencing you in that space, because those are those people are going to influence that Venn diagram on who you think you are. There's going to be a lot of influence associated with that, and the way that you show up, and also the way in which others perceive you. A handful of you on this call know my friend Lindsay. And so you think of Lindsay's brand and maybe immediately think, what are some similarities, or even what are some differences about those people? So be thinking about that as well. I mentioned at the start of the conversation, I promised I can't not talk about my buddy Simon Sinek. We're on a first name basis, in case anyone wanted to know. I'm kidding, we're really not, I only wish. So if you have not ever heard of the Golden Circle before, this is Simon Sinek's, just do a quick Google search of Simon Sinek and why, and his TED Talk will come up about it. There's one that's out there for 5 minutes, one that's out there for 20 minutes. It's this concept associated with that if we live our why, then everything else will fall into alignment. And so many people live by their hows and their whats. They live by and are continuously running a race associated with the hows and the whats of what happens every day, or the things that we do. And if we really dig down to the why we do what we do, that is what people buy. That is what people connect to from a relationship perspective. When we think about these 3 areas and go back to my Venn diagram, when you think about the why, that's who I think I am from the Venn diagram. The why is who I think I am. That's that space. That's what I believe. The what's and the hows are the what I do and the perceptions of others, the what I do and say and the perceptions of others. So these pieces of how and what we do are a piece of the puzzle. And a lot of Simon Sinek's work focuses on, if we are able to truly believe in our why and truly have a why that is clear and concise for us, all of the other pieces will fall into alignment naturally and give us a filter that allows us to be consistently authentic. So it's not exhausting at the end of the day to be who you are from that personal branding perspective, who you are, because you are living your purpose. You are living what you believe. And when we believe it, other people believe it. It's contagious in that way. So when we know, others know. And so I want to give you sort of just a 50,000 foot view. Like Krista had mentioned, there's a lot of work to be had associated with that. Simon Sinek talks about very dark days in his life when he wasn't living his why and what that did to him and the people around him, and the journey. And I use the word journey very specifically, that journey that it took for him to get to that space. Excuse me, a little tickle in my throat. When we started the conversation around the Simmons Group tenets, those come from a space of why we do what we do, which is to empower people to be their best. So that's the Simmons Group's why, to empower people to be their best. And we do that in the hows and the whats through processes that we do, through engagements and interactions with our clients about working through difficult situations, from the facilitation that we do, even as tactical and transactional as when we're reviewing employee handbooks, or when we're looking to do coaching with the client. We're focusing on how to empower that person to be the best that they can be. We're looking to influence that in an authentic way through the things that we do. And that plays into how we are perceived by others. And so if we only focused on the things that we did, the what's and the hows, our brand would not be nearly as strong as it is. And Simon Sinek goes through the journey of many brands. The most popular brands that he talks about is Apple, and that people are loyal to Apple to a fault because of their why, their space to allow you to be unique and creative. One of their very first commercials, if anyone remembers this, is associated associated with, they bring a guy up on the screen and it's, you know, it's representation of the PC and he's in a business suit and a tie and got a leather briefcase. And they bring up the Apple Mac guy and he's like sitting at a chair and behind a desk at a coffee shop, sipping his coffee. Just a completely different sense. That's where they started telling their story around challenging the status quo. Everyone is welcome, right? Those kinds of things. And so when you are able to be true to and authentic to your why, you are able to get others to believe as well. When you're able to bring those elements into alignment, others will believe you as well. Questions about Simon's and what I've said so far, or any of Simon's work, or any other thoughts? I think that's someone's background noise. Okay. So when we think about perception and we think about that circle on the bottom right-hand side from a perception perspective, I want to give you each some homework. And that homework is to ask at least 5 people in your world. Maybe it's 5 people that are on the list from the iceberg, right? Those 5 people that you talk to, interact with, engage with the most. Maybe it's others beyond those 5. I want you to ask them, what are 3 words you would use to describe yourself? Or to describe me? Oh my gosh, Amy, what are 3 words that you would use to describe me? So if I were to ask Kelly, what 3 words would you use to describe me? Then I would go to Wendy, what 3 words would you use to describe me? Then I would go to Stacy, what 3 words would you use to describe me? And, you know, just tell them that you're looking to understand a little bit more about yourself, and you're looking to understand how the world is seeing the things that you're doing. Our intention versus our impact are very different. And sometimes we're gloriously unaware of what our intention is versus what our impact is. And this is a good barometer to be able to understand that. Once you've solicited 5, 6, 10, however many you want, look for the patterns. Look for the patterns on what people are saying about you and identify, is that really what I want my brand to be? Is that really what I want people to, my leave behind to be for individuals? So I like to do this every once in a while. And I thought, well, gosh, I'm doing this today. Why don't I solicit from a few people what I heard? And in order to do my measurement and my temperature check. And so I did that, and it was interesting, the things that came up that people mentioned that I hadn't heard them mention before. And so now that gives me an opportunity to be able to reflect on that. What might I be doing differently to be able to be giving that as a part of my definition or a part of my leave behind? So I would encourage you to do this. I'm going to sort of tell you a story. It's a little bit of a vulnerable space for me. About a perception that I didn't realize I had. So I worked for a Fortune 500 company. I was at the world headquarters. I had a lot of pressure on me because we were going through a huge organizational change. If any of you have ever seen the movie Up in the Air, they might have actually done that movie based on this company I used to work for. And I was one of those peeps. I was the person on the plane in the meeting, like, hey, your job's been eliminated. Okay, this has been a fun game, right? And so through that journey, I worked in a male-dominated industry, in a male-dominated world when I was going through these very formative years of my professional life. And there are probably a decent amount of bad habits that I brought out of that journey. And some that I'm still working on today, others that I had an opportunity to have some feedback on. And I think back to this one particular instance, and in order to protect the innocent, I'm going to call her Betty. And Betty worked in my office, but she didn't work for me. She worked in our physical offices, but she didn't work for me. And Betty came into my office one day, shaking like a leaf, so nervous. And I was busy and had a ton of things to do. And Betty says, hey, Amy, do you have a quick minute? Do you have some time? And I said, yeah, sure. Come in. Yeah, I've got some time. And she sits down across the desk from me, and I'm, writing, I'm behind my computer, like doing all these things. I'm like, yeah. What do you want? And she takes this deep breath in and she said, I am really struggling because I think you hate me. And I paused and probably gasped and had zero words. My immediate thought was, what in the world have I done to create this sort of leave behind for this gal that I hardly work with, but that is important to me because she's a part of the collective team, right? And so I did some questioning and I did some digging and some soul searching. And some of my bad habits were allowing for leave behind, where I thought like grind and get it done and check mark the boxes and move forward. Like I was the get it done girl. You bring me a problem, I'm going to solve it. And we're going to push through and have a strategy to move to the next thing. Like I was proud of that until I realized what sort of impact that was happening on people like Betty. My constant scowl on my face, what I like to call my think face, my tough think face, right, was leaving this impression that I had no idea. And so had I not taken that moment to really understand the perception, like vulnerably understand the perception that other people had about me, I had a real hard time connecting to what truly my personal brand was and what I wanted it to be. So I certainly use that as a valuable lesson. And that might be some things that come out of you being able to do an activity like this or being able to have conversation with the people around you. And I encourage you to not go to just the yes people, right? Like if I went and did this to my husband, he'd say all kinds of things like, oh, words I think about to describe you are beautiful and loving, which I mean might be true. And he is certainly going to be someone that has a little bit of a shielded perspective. I have also seen Simon Sinek speak at Zappos, so he was great. I loved it. Thank you for putting that in the chat too. So I encourage you to do this. It's going to be a little bit uncomfortable the first time you do it, and it's going to be very, very rewarding. And honestly, after I did it this morning, I had this boost of endorphins in my body because I was like, oh my gosh, people think I'm smart. People think I'm funny. People think I'm thoughtful. All those things that we sometimes forget about from a self-talk perspective. All right, so one of the other big pieces of our personal brand, which is a huge hot topic right now, given the current environment we're in, the current political environment, all those kinds of good things, is technology, right? How are we leveraging our social media? Disclaimer, I am not a social media expert. I am not a PR and marketing gal. What I do know is that, as I mentioned at the start, people remember the way you made them feel. And there are ways to have courageous conversation around things that you may disagree with or you may not fully understand when it comes to social media and the things that we do. I'm just simply saying, be aware of those messages and be reflective of what it is that you are putting out into the universe for everyone to read and interpret. What is above the waterline, you've now put above the waterline, and they may not have all the context of below the waterline to connect the dots or the intention you're looking for. One of the things, like a strategy that I use, is that I am not Instagram friends with everyone. I do not let clients on my Instagram because I put different things on my Instagram than I do, let's say, on Facebook, for instance. And so be intentional and be thoughtful about some of those things so that your messaging can stay consistent around what you're doing. I want to talk about our thoughts for a minute. There are a few of us on the call that have a mutual colleague that likes to use the language soul sister. I like to use the language self-talk. What is it that is our self-talk? What is it that we're saying about ourselves? Because the things that we think and feel, other people think and feel as well. And there is a ton of data and statistics out there, and it depends on what research you're looking at. And for my Amy P brain, I go to like the simplest of data that I can wrap my head around. And that is that a general sense of research tells us that 75% of our thoughts are negative. And in that negativity is some form of potential lies. And what I mean by that is not necessarily direct lies that we know we're telling, but could be also indirect. Uh-oh, Stacy's in the waiting room again. But also indirect things like, hey, Kelly, I hate to interrupt you. That's not an intentional lie, but I lied because my need was greater than me interrupting Kelly because I did it, right? And so when we are more conscious of our thoughts and the things that we're telling ourselves, we are better able to truly believe what it is that our leave behind, what it is that our personal brand is that we are looking to have people see. And so I want everybody to think about, I want you to think about one negative thought that you have about yourself. What is it that's one negative thought about yourself? And so a big one that I struggle with often is that I'm a terrible aunt and sister. I'm a terrible aunt and sister. I always forget birthdays. I'm terrible. I always forget birthdays. That is a lie that I am telling. Stacy, don't you go getting crazy on me now. When we think about those lies that we tell ourselves, we believe them, we lean into them, we start to find reasons that they are true. And so this is a little technique or a tactic that we use. It's from an emotional intelligence training through Talent Smart. So my certification through Talent Smart has taught me this little bitty process because our brains need simple things in order to create new habits. And so if you think about that one thought, what would you tell your best friend about that thought? How would you reframe that for your best friend? So then reframe the thought and keep the thought simple and practice it and practice it and practice it every time you find yourself going down that slippery, dangerous, negative slope. And so when I think about, and it happened just this week, peeps, it happened just this week. My brother-in-law's birthday was on Monday, yesterday. And on Saturday, I text messaged, thinking it was my sister, but text messaged my brother-in-law and said, dang it, I forget when Brock's birthday is. And for some reason, my birthday calendar isn't showing on my phone. And then like 2 seconds later, I looked up and was like, oh my gosh, I just sent that to my brother-in-law. Now the cat's out of the bag. I am a terrible person because now he knows that I don't remember when his birthday is. And he's only been in my life for 25 years. So the reframe that I have for myself, because if my friend Stacy were to call and say, gosh, I feel terrible, like I come consistently forgetting people's birthdays, I'd be like, hey, give yourself some grace, girl, right? I would say all these things that are like, it's not going to be the end all be all. They know that you love you, right? All these things that you can think of to tell your friend. That one thought, think of all the things that you would tell your friend with that one thought. My reframe for this birthday extravaganza conundrum I've got myself into is that I show connection in other ways. I show connection in other ways. And every time I start to creep down that place of I'm a terrible person for forgetting the birthday, I just say, I show connection in other ways. That helps my brain stop that bad behavior and start to think about myself in a different way. Another big one is that I can sometimes feel and others do is I don't know as much as other people do, right? So like going to that smarter space, I'm not as smart as you. The reframe is I'm right where I'm supposed to be. I'm right where I'm supposed to be. And that helps get past that negative belief system about yourself and reframe to be able to get to the positive that you're looking for. So I want you to think about that one thing, that one thought that you have. Yes, Stacy, let's just focus on one. And I want you to reframe it into a positive thought and keeping it simple. Since we've just got about 10 minutes left, I want to, one of the things that's important, right, when we think about these things is the words that we use. And so thinking about powerless words versus powerful words and what powerless words do to us. When I try to do something, when I try to do something, let's say I'm, chatting with Roy and I say, gosh, yeah, Roy, I'm going to try to get you that report by 5 o'clock. Am I really going to get Roy that report by 5 o'clock? Is it likely that I'm going to get Roy that report by 5 o'clock? Rhetorical, right? No is the answer to that, because when I try to do something, I'm not believing in it in myself. But is another one, a big one. When you are using the word but, you are negating the thing you said previously. And however is but dressed in a tuxedo from a powerless words perspective. When you say, I love that, but I'm really smart, but you're negating the fact your brain cannot process that part. So using these words on the right-hand side, choosing into and acting on, willing them, I get to do this thing, gives us more of an internal push. So beware of that. Beware of the words that you're using, because the words that you're using create our BS, create our belief systems. And those belief systems color the personal brand that we put out into the universe, right? For others to be able to believe in and see as well. So be cognizant of the things that are coloring your belief systems. They shape us. I want to move past this real quick. Oops. So these are some things that I use to strengthen my brand. So when we talk about, for ease, right, the Simmons Group why around being able to get people to be their best selves, facilitating that environment, I use resources to be able to strengthen my brand, to be able to believe in it. These are just a handful of things that I use. Find your network, find mentorships, the one thing I can guarantee from a defining who you are perspective is that there's going to be failure and there's going to be missteps. I've done it. I've shared at least one example with you. Be cognizant of that along the way, because those are just learning opportunities. Those are spaces for you to be able to learn from and grow from. And these are just a couple of the resources that I use for my personal brand. They might not make sense for your personal brand, depending on how you've described or defined yourself. So Amy Cuddy does the power posing sort of situation. Each of those on the left-hand side are some type of TED Talk and or book, right? So Listening to Shame is one of Brene Brown's specific TED Talks that I love. The Happiness Advantage by Shawnacor is something that I could listen to every day because he is the funniest human on this planet. I just think he is hilarious. Yeah, it's, the power posing, right, Wendy, with the Amy Cuddy stuff is getting yourself into that mindset. It's being able to shift that mindset 100%. So find your resources, find what it is that you can use to leverage the brand that you're looking for. I think we have just a couple of minutes, right? So I want to click here to this. So I want you to, when you're thinking about your brand, list the traits that you're looking for and be reflective of how you hone those specific skills, and then be able to tell a story around those specific skills. So for instance, if you're looking to be known around strategy, or you want to increase your strategery, I just made that word up. How'd you like that? If you're looking to increase that, maybe it's a class. Continuing education at UNLV has a ton of classes that you could look into and be able to hone that skill differently. Come up with a plan that allows you to be able to understand the skill you're looking for and be able to dig into it more deeply. And then tell the story about who it is that you want to be and what you want people to take away from that. We have this perception that people are just going to get your narrative, that people are just going to understand me. And if you're not telling the narrative, they're not going to fully understand what your intent is. So if I want a piece of my brand to be about curiosity and that I really do care, maybe it's about practicing open-ended questions. Maybe it's about being able to ask better questions of people that would be able to get that story going, or be able to get that story more prevalent for those that are around you. Quick kind of side conversation or side story about that. I had recently met someone who I didn't realize I had met before by way of another friend. And we were working through some difficult things for her, some things that she was struggling with. And about 3 minutes into it was a group conversation. 3 minutes into the group conversation, I connected the dots and I realized that the reason that there was a disconnect, because I loved what she did, I was like, why have I not ever heard about you before in the Valley? And I realized that the disconnect was because that other person told this woman's story to me. This woman didn't tell me her story. And it was the first time I had heard her tell her story. And it created such a level of connection. And she shared with me days later that she had been nervous to share her story, and that this other person was speaking on her behalf because that person believed in her more than she did. And so there was a lot of really rich dialogue around the passion we don't always understand about ourselves when we are telling our own story versus when someone else is telling our own story. So own it, believe it, lean into it, and be able to really define what it is that you want your personal brand to be. How do you want these 3 circles to come together to create that perfectly Venn circle? I don't even know if that's a thing, right? So I'll leave you just with this last sort of slide here, and with what little time we have left, open it for question. Oops, sugar, sorry. So these are just some of my recommendations. Look to those 5 people around you, right? Be able to see how those people might be influencing the brand or your brand or your leave behind. Defining your why and believing it. Being intentional about your presence on social media, and defining what you want your leave behind to be. What is it? How do you want to tell your story? What are those traits and characteristics you want people to ask you in a year, or you want people to respond with in a year's time when you ask them, what are 3 words you would use to describe me? Be intentional about that. So with that, I talked a bunch. Go for it. Ask any questions. I'll open it up. I'll open it up for additional questions. And then Angela, I saw your private chat to me, and I'm happy to connect offline so we can talk through that. Everyone is like, ham and cheese, ham and cheese. I didn't eat lunch while you were doing this. I gotta go. Bye. I'm starving. You're welcome, Wendy. Good to see you all too. Oh, and then Krista, you wanted me to also remind everyone. So the next session is on December 15th, and my business partner, Anne, will be presenting on, she'll be leveraging some of the things we talked about today with building your confidence and being able to tell your story. So leveraging some of these things.
Yes, thank you, Amy. And then it was asked if you are able to share your presentation with us. It was so fun.
Oh yeah, heavens, yes,
Wonderful.
Yes. Yep.
And then if you send that to Laurel, she can then send it out to everybody. Since
Okay,
she's
perfect.
Our attendee list.
Great.
Amy, we can't thank you enough for sharing all your fun stories, as well as educating us on how to explore our why. It was wonderful.
The trash man just pulled up. I hope you all cannot hear that.
Oh, I
can. Timing is impeccable, sir. Oh yeah, Ethel M's. Don't forget about Ethel M's. Yes, tasty. Yum, Wendy, yum. What day is that?
The 3rd of
the
December.
3rd, okay. Yeah.
Terrific.
I want to grab Angela's. Thank you everyone for spending your lunch hour with me and letting me share what I love to share.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Everyone have a terrific day, and we look forward to seeing you in December. We have a handful of events.
Sounds great.
Bye, Roy. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Great talk, Amy. Thank you.
Thank you.
So is Wendy still on? I was going to ask why hope is a bad word in coaching. She jumped off.
I didn't see that.
Yeah.
Did she write it in a private chat to you?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, sorry. Hope is a bad word in coaching. I'm not sure.
We'll have to ask her over chocolate.
No kidding. I need to copy really quick
Okay.
before we close. Oh, wait, and I can stop the recording. I sure hope this works.